Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Combating Cancer. I'm your host, Gwen Kelly. To all of my first-time listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm truly glad you've decided to be a part of this journey and this fight. Just to give you a little background on me, I was diagnosed with stage 3 astrocytoma brain cancer at the age of 19. That experience completely changed my life, and it's the reason why I created this platform. I wanted to build a safe, supportive space for anyone impacted by cancer. Whether you're currently in treatment, in remission, or grieving the loss of a loved one, to come on and share your story. Cancer is a devastating disease, and no one should ever have to face it alone. Today, I'm really excited to welcome a very special guest, Ella Lang. Hi, Ella. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, and honestly, I'm just really glad we finally connected. For anyone listening, this is actually Ella's first time publicly sharing her story, and I feel incredibly honored to be able to give her this platform to do that. Ella and I actually met in kind of an unexpected way. Our parents know each other, and at the time, I'd actually been diagnosed with cancer. I remember getting a message from my mom saying, "Hey, this girl Ella was just diagnosed. Maybe you could reach out to her." And I'll be honest, I hesitated a little. You were 16, I was 19, and I just remember how overwhelming it was when I first got diagnosed. I had so many people in my DMs trying to say the right thing, and sometimes it just felt like too much. So I wasn't sure if you'd even want to hear from me, but I ended up sending you something super simple like, "Hey, I've been through this too. I was diagnosed young as well. If you ever want to talk, I'm here, just short and sweet, enough to let you know you weren't alone."
Yeah. And I actually did really appreciate that, and having the conversation with my dad and knowing someone, because I don't really know anybody my age in my circle or in my community that has had it, except for my neighbor who's recently passed away, but I didn't really get to share that connection with anybody. So with you reaching out, it was like, oh, I'm not alone.
Yeah, and honestly, I was so happy that you even responded to me. I remember talking to my mom about it, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll reach out. But I was really unsure because when it was me getting diagnosed, I totally got it. I didn't want to talk to anyone either, and it was just so overwhelming, especially with getting all those random messages. But I am so excited you're here today and willing to share your story. So let's get the ball rolling. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself before you were diagnosed with cancer?
I was a dancer for 15 years. Recently quit that my sophomore year before everything happened, not knowing anything. I also ran track, soccer, traveled a lot, really into school and activities and stuff like that. And high school was a little bit rough for me. I didn't really have a good start freshman year, not meeting the best people. Sophomore year was also very hard for me. And then going into junior year is when I was like, okay, hardest year of high school, but I'm excited for it. And then, of course, I got diagnosed my summer going into my junior year. So that was also hard because I was like, okay, fresh start, here we go. But yeah.
Yeah, those high school years can definitely be a mixed bag. For some people, they're amazing, and for others, they can be really tough, especially when something life-changing happens. So why don't you tell us a bit more about your diagnosis and the type of cancer you're dealing with?
Okay, so it's called a rare childhood liver cancer, but more specifically, it's cellular carcinoma, and it's just liver cancer. And there wasn't really, I didn't have any symptoms of it, so that's why it came very shockingly. And the story behind me finding out is back in June of 2022, I started having trouble walking and breathing, and I was out to eat with a friend. And I was like, okay, I'm not feeling well whatsoever. So I called my mom. We met at the ER, got scans and everything done. And I was told that nothing was wrong, that if I keep having this pain to come back in, and we thought it was appendicitis, but it was not. So just continued on with life, didn't think anything of it. I did start having other health issues, women-related health issues. So we went into that, thought I had PCOS. That was the reason with all my symptoms of bloating and stuff like that. But that was not the case. So we got blood work done, and that came a little wonky. But a month after all of those appointments, my mom went into my charts, and it records all your labs and your scans and stuff like that. And she scrolled all the way back down to June of 2022 to my scans. And it did say liver mass detected, seek MRI immediately. And we were not informed of anything. My pediatricians was not informed of anything. So it kind of took us by immediate shock. And they didn't say it was cancer, but then a week after that, I got a biopsy, and there were 2 tumors there. And they said it would come back 3 to 5 business days, but not even 24 hours later, it came back to be cancer. And I actually found out I was in the basement with my boyfriend at the time watching a movie, and it just was like, my reaction to it is that I laughed. So I was like, there's just no way. Like, what? And we have no family history of cancer, no genetics, anything with cancer. So I was like, what? How could I have possibly got this? And then we got the ball rolling right then and there. 2 weeks later, I had surgery, and I'm missing segments 7 and 8 of my lower liver. And I got really lucky that I did not need a liver transplant because that part of the liver grows back. And then in surgery, though, they found 4 more tumors. So in total, I had 6. But they did say that they had got all of it. Like the cancer was gone. It did not spread throughout my body, which I was so blessed. But they did say that they highly did recommend chemotherapy. So I did do 4 rounds of that. And I got the red devil, which is, I think, the worst. So that was also very hard. And I just didn't really get a chance to actually sit and process what was happening. So looking back, it's like still such a blur because it happened so fast, so quickly without explanation or anything. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
You know what? Listening to you talk about how you laughed when you found out, that was literally my exact reaction too. I just remember laughing like, what else do you even do?
Yeah.
Because in that moment, I was like, this has to be a joke. There's no way this is real. And then, of course, once you hear the word cancer, everything starts happening so fast. It's like the ground shifts beneath you. You barely have time to catch your breath, let alone process what's going on. 1 second, you're out here thinking about your junior year, hoping it's finally going to be your year. And the next thing you're being told is you have to fight for your life. Your whole world flips upside down. So when all of this started happening, once that initial shock wore off, and after the moments of laughing as a way to cope, how did you handle it? Did you tell your friends and family right away? What were their reactions?
I didn't tell any of my friends right away just because I was like, I don't know how people are going to react because, yeah, it just happened so quickly. We did tell our family. That was very hard to hear. And my brother actually found out before I did. So that also was very hard on him, and it was hard to see that. I did tell my best friend at the time, and it got out sooner than I thought it would. So that was very unexpected and very overwhelming. And, you know, I had people reach out who weren't the greatest people to me before. So I was a little like, okay, so now all of a sudden type thing. But I did appreciate like the prayers and everything. But it was just like, I didn't even get the chance to actually sit with it until everybody else found out. And, you know, there were speculations of, oh, this can't be real. Like, it's just not true.
Yeah, it's especially at our age, I've kind of realized talking to a bunch of different people that it just spreads like wildfire and it turns into like a gossip thing almost.
Yes.
And I had all these people reaching out to me and I'm like, we are not friends.
No.
I appreciate the reaching out, but I felt like it was more reaching out so they could get gossip on the situation.
Yep.
And, you know, that's something that's not really talked about with like younger people when they get diagnosed because, you know, when adults get diagnosed, the response is usually more thoughtful and respectful. But in high school or college, it can feel more like gossip. The news spreads fast and not always in a supportive way. That must have been really hard for you to deal with.
Yeah. And nobody like knew my actual diagnosis besides that it was liver cancer. So then rumors started spreading like, oh, she got this from that and doing that. It added a lot more stress than there already was. So that was also really hard to hear, just false accusations. I mean, that's also high school and drama, but I don't know. It just was a lot. And then I didn't really get to like share my story whatsoever without either getting shut down because they're like, no, we heard this first. No, we heard that. And I was like, you know what? I know what I'm going through. You don't. So it's okay.
Yeah, that's got to be incredibly hard because at the end of the day, the only story that really matters is your own. People are always going to form their own opinions, whether or not you have cancer, but going through something so personal in such a public environment like high school, I can't imagine how tough that must have been. I know for me, it was really difficult in college. I didn't even get a chance to tell people myself. I remember this one moment, there was a sports banquet and I played Division II tennis and out of nowhere, one of the faculty members started telling everyone I had cancer. No one even knew yet. Suddenly I was getting flooded with these messages and I hadn't had time to process it myself. And then come the rumors, she probably got it because of this, or it must have been from that. People just start speculating. It becomes this whole thing that has nothing to do with the truth. It's just ignorance, honestly. But at the same time, you almost have to step back and say, I'm glad they don't understand, because if they did, it would mean they'd been through it, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone, not even my worst enemy. So as you were trying to process all of that, the diagnosis, people talking, your whole world changing, I imagine you were scared. What were some of those internal struggles you were facing? Maybe things you weren't even saying out loud because to admit them would make it feel all too real.
Yeah. Well, I did miss a whole trimester of school. So that was also a big thing. I did try online school, but just with the feeling of being in the hospital and having to go in every 2 weeks, like my body could never fully gain the motivation to do school. So I did end up doing summer school to regain some of those credits, but that was a big stressor, was just trying to figure out school, because I had to start applying for colleges after junior year, and like I did not know where my head was at whatsoever. And that and then also just wanting to be able to go to like sporting events still and hang out with friends, and like that was very limited just because you're more susceptible of getting sick. I did go to a lot of like football games and hockey games, so that helped. But just the social aspect, like I need to keep my mind busy instead of just sitting in my room, which that was basically my only option, was to sit in my room and be with the people that I've been around my entire life, so I don't expose myself to others. My anxiety got really, really bad. I just think about everything too fast, and I don't know, just worried a lot about like the worst case scenarios. And like in the moment, I'd have to say, like during my treatment, I was actually a really happy person, which some people are like, really? And I'm like, when you're going through something like that, your brain, I feel like, just turns off and goes into like flight or fight mode, and just automatically is like, okay, I'm doing this, but I'm like here. And so I just took that. And then when treatments ended, it like really hit me. I'm like, wow, what did I just go through? And so I'd say it took me almost up to a year, because it's been 2 years since I finished chemo. And I think it took me up to a year to actually fully process everything and realize that what I went through is what I went through, and not just like a dream, because it really did feel like a dream, but a bad dream, obviously.
Yeah, I completely get that. It's so hard, especially when you're right in the thick of it. You're just trying to survive each day. You're processing things, but at the same time, you're not, because you're overwhelmed by doctor's appointments, test results, treatment, trying to understand what's happening while also holding on to some sense of a normal life. And then suddenly they tell you you're done with chemo, and you're just sitting there like, now what? Your life has been completely uprooted. It's never going to be the same. And even if it's better in some ways, it's still different. You start to mourn the life you had before your diagnosis, the version of yourself that never had to think about any of this. How did you deal with that part of it, the emotional aftermath? Because for me, that struggle is still very real. I still work through the anger, the grief, and the challenge of finding something positive in it all. But at the end of the day, it was traumatic, especially going through it so young. And I imagine that's something you've had to navigate too.
Yeah. And I always just think back to like, you always ask yourself, like, why me? And I guess there's really no answer to that, like whatsoever. But I did question that a lot. And I was like, how could this happen to me? Like, I've heard other stories, and growing up, cancer was my worst fear. As for my family, like that's the one thing that I was always so scared about. And then it happening was just like, wow, like what happened? But to this day, even just stepping into a doctor's office is hard. Having to go back for scans every 3 months for the next 2 years, and then 6 months for the rest of my life. It's just the constant thought of that trauma always being there. And like, you can't always escape that. Because like a week prior to doctor appointments, that's when I like start freaking out, because I'm like, this can either go really well or really, really bad. And there's no in between. And so I guess that's just something that's going to take a while to like heal that scar. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could sit here and tell you that now, being more than 3 years out and still going in every 90 days for scans, that I feel totally fine, that I don't worry anymore, but that's just not the truth. I talk about anxiety all the time on this platform because it's real and it's hard. Especially at our ages, it's tough to even think about the future sometimes. I have conversations with people who are older, they're married, they have kids, they're building this stable life. And meanwhile, you and I were thrown into this nightmare so young. We're still figuring things out, worried about financials, college degrees, finals, whether we like the person we were dating. And then bam, now it's, am I still in remission? When's the next scan? What if it comes back? And every time you go in for a scan, there's that fear. What if this is the one where everything changes again? And you ask yourself, how would I handle it this time? It's exhausting and it's heavy, and it's okay to admit that.
Yeah, it's very hard. And knowing that I do have a support system and that like the doctors mean well, and I know that I'll have people there if something were to happen, but it's just like you said, the constant fear of like not knowing what's going to happen ever for the rest of your life.
It's really a fear that I wouldn't wish on anyone. And unfortunately, I do feel like it's not talked about a lot, and it can make you feel very alone and kind of crazy.
Yes.
Am I the only one
Yes.
feeling this way?
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, it's a real thing. And unfortunately, it's, we get thrown into this cancer club that none of us wanted to, but we immediately form connections with one another because we understand that fear and the trauma that continues to linger afterwards. And really, all we can do is continue to show up for each other, to be there, to validate those fears because they're real. And there's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of in feeling them. I do have a question, and only if you're comfortable talking about it, but it's something I was really curious about. I followed your journey on social media while everything was happening. I'd see you at the football games, hockey games, just out there showing up and living life, and I was honestly cheering you on from afar the whole time, hoping you were doing okay. But I also noticed that during that treatment, you started losing your hair, and from one woman to another, I know how incredibly hard that part of the process can be. So I'm curious, how did you cope with that? What was that experience like for you, not just physically, but emotionally?
Yeah, it was very hard. I think that was like the hardest thing throughout the entire process. And it didn't hit me until I finally started losing my hair. And it's funny looking back now, but when they told me I did need chemotherapy, the first question I asked is, am I really going to lose my hair? And that's the first thing I immediately thought about. And like other people hearing that, they're like, is that really what you were worried about? I'm like, well, when you're so used to looking at yourself with hair every day in the morning and every day at night, you don't really see yourself without hair. And I remember, I think I didn't start losing my hair till like 2 weeks after my first round, which I think is quite like normal for the timeline aspect of it. But I was just like, this is awful. Like, how do I prevent myself from getting up and just like crying about it? Because it was bound to happen. I know it's going to happen. Like, it did take me by surprise, but it's just like in the moment feeling, you're just like, wow, that's when it really all hit me. I'm like, this is awful.
Well, I don't think anyone actually prepares you for being in the shower and your hair coming out and clumps in your hands.
Yeah, it's just the feeling that like you can't really describe to other people because like you said before, they don't know how it feels or what it feels like. And I definitely had the confidence to go out surprisingly for the longest time. Like I went to school one day when I like got the okay from my doctor to visit with some of my friends in my dance class. And I wore like this little bun on the top of my head. My hair was very thin, like you could definitely tell, but it's just like the small comments is what triggered me the most. Cause like I walked in and people were complaining about how like nappy their hair is or how they want to cut it off and restart because it's so dead. And I'm like, just had to take a deep breath. So I'm like, I had to remind myself they don't know what it feels like. And I cannot say that what I'm going through is worse as what they are. I mean, yes, it is, but I can't compare that and nor can they. But it was just like so hard. It was so hard.
It's the little comments. I remember I had a friend that went and got a haircut and she has very, very long hair. And they cut off maybe an inch longer than she wanted to. And she was sobbing. And I had no hair at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like trying not to lose my crap.
Yeah. And it's hard not to say anything because you're like, look at me. Like, I hate to be selfish. Like, I hated to be selfish in that moment because I didn't want to be like, oh, everything is worse because what I'm going through is worse than what you're going through. And it was hard to like not go there. But when you really like step back and like see like the bigger picture of things, like right now, I always remind myself that someone is always having a worse day than I am because I'm very happy to be where I am today and other people can't say that. So like, I just always have to remind myself not to be so like selfish during those hard moments.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is, you never want people to be able to relate to this. You don't want them to understand what it's like. But unfortunately, the comments still come, and it doesn't matter how old someone is. It could be a 6-year-old or someone in their 60s. People say things often without realizing the impact. Sometimes you just have to laugh it off and think, I wish I could be that blissfully unaware, because as painful as those comments can be, it also means that they haven't had to go through what we've been through. And in a strange way, you're almost glad they don't get it. You've definitely had such a unique experience, especially going through all of this during high school. And I completely relate to the kind of thoughtless things people say. Even if they don't mean to be cruel, those words still stick with you. They don't help, and sometimes they just make the weight of it all even heavier. But I just want to say it's been incredible watching how you've continued to push through all of this. Your strength really shows. And I guess one of the biggest things I want to ask you is, what have been your biggest takeaways from this entire experience? I know it came out of nowhere, flipped your life upside down, but if there's someone else our age going through this right now, what's something you wish you had known at the beginning? What would you tell them?
That's a good question. I'd say, well, the one thing I took away from this is that, like, you have to rely on family. That's like the only support system that you're really going to have throughout. Like, no matter how close you are with your friends, like, they are truly going to be the only ones that understand you through this hard time. But a piece of advice that I wish I knew is that it's going to be hard and there's no denying it. Like, I tried to deny it so much that, like, okay, I'm okay. Like, this is fine. But in reality, I was not okay. And I think, tell yourself that you're not okay, but it's okay to not be okay about it, if that makes sense. Like, I just was in denial for so long that it prolonged my healing journey. That's why it took me so long to actually, like, be okay with what happened, because there's no going back. And you can't go back, even though obviously you wish you could. But I just feel like it's kind of a harsh piece of advice, but I feel like it's the only way, because I kept having doctors like tell me, like, and like friends, like, you're going to be okay. Like, things are going to be okay. You're going to feel fine. Like, it's going to be hard. And like, I took that with a grain of salt, because I'm like, nobody's going to understand unless you're going through it, because yes, it's hard. You also go through so many mental problems too, not just physical. And that's what got me the most, I think.
It's definitely hard, and there's definitely those days that I'm sure you were really happy, and then all of a sudden you were just uncontrollably sobbing because, like, this is your reality.
Yeah.
And it is true. Like, no matter how close your friends are, the only people that are really going to know you and be okay with seeing the ugly is your family, because that's your family and they're not going anywhere. And how was your family support during this with your parents?
I mean, it obviously took everybody by shock, but the way that they handled it and how strong they were, like, it was just so comforting. And I have 2 younger siblings, so that was also very hard to see, like, how it affected them. And that's what kind of killed me the most too, is to see how, like, sad they were every time I left to go into chemo and stuff like that. And they obviously could see me because they had school, but the support system was absolutely insane. Like, even my extended family, like my grandparents and my aunts and my cousins, like, they would always send me texts before I went in just to give me that little, like, boost of motivation that it's going to be okay and stuff like that. So that really helped tremendously. And my mom is my best friend and has been, and she kept it real with me. Like, she told me, and we cried together one time. Like, it's just the feeling that, like, they're also going through it too, but in a different way. Maybe not physically, but they are going through it as well mentally. Just to see that their own child is going through that has to be probably one of the most hardest things a parent has to witness.
It's hard too, because obviously, like, when you're going through it, you're not kind of sitting there being like, oh, I'm sure my parents are also going through it too, because you're so focused on yourself. And you're just like, man, you kind of sit back and you're like, they really put up with a lot of crap from me, a lot of angry days, a lot of happy days, and just for them to be that support system, because, you know, they have to go into the doctor's office and hold their emotions and not break down so they can get all of the information and set you up for the best success that they can. And that is just so awesome that your parents and your family were there the entire step of the way, because even, like you said, extended family just sending you messages before you going into doctor's appointments, like, that makes such a difference. And I don't think a lot of people actually think, like, those small texts do make a difference.
Yes, 100%. And I did tell them that. Well, like, it's just so appreciated, because some of them would even be like, I'm sorry to come off annoying. I'm like, no. Like, it's not annoying whatsoever. If anything, like, I appreciate it more than you will ever know, because just hearing from other people that you know that will always be there saying those things, it does make a big difference.
Yeah, it really does mean so much to receive those messages, especially because this journey can feel incredibly isolating, even when you're surrounded by people. Just knowing that someone is thinking of you, sending love or prayers, even if you're not in the headspace to respond that day, it still means the world. That kind of support really carries you through the harder moments, and it's so beautiful that you had people showing up for you like that. So I want to shift gears a little and talk about where you're at now. I know you just started college, which is so exciting, but I'm also curious about your current health situation. What's the latest from your doctors? Are you still doing the 3-month scan routine, or has anything changed with your follow-up care?
Yeah, so I think for the next year, I'm going in every 3 months. And then after that, I think it goes to every 6 months. But I mean, obviously, I still have prolonging issues too. Like my hearing hasn't been that great. And just a bunch of other things that have been going wrong just because of like the after effects of everything. But other than that, yeah, just checkups, scans, blood work, the fun stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, all the fun jazz. I am no stranger to the side effects afterwards, but seriously, I'm really sorry to hear about the lingering side effects. I know how hard those can be. It's like these little consistent reminders of everything you've been through, but I just want to say you've been so strong and you've carried yourself with such grace and resilience through this entire journey. Honestly, watching everything you shared from afar, I felt like a proud older sister, even though we barely knew each other at the time. I just remember thinking, this girl is so strong. You were just 16, walking through something so huge, and the way you owned it, like, this is me, take it or leave it. It was so inspiring, and if people didn't get it, too bad. You just kept showing up with strength, authenticity, and confidence, and I admire that so much. So I just want to say, you're truly inspirational. I wish you nothing but the best in everything you do moving forward. And now I'm excited. Why don't you tell everyone what's next for you? What's life looking for you like these days?
I started my freshman year of college at Augustana out in South Dakota. I'm majoring in government and international affairs, hoping to be like in the Secret Services. That's been a dream for a while. I grew up watching Criminal Minds and SWAT and all those shows. And it's funny because mostly everybody in my family on my mom's side are nurses. So like there's always this, not stereotype, but like, oh my gosh, I could be a nurse. I'm like, no, I'm staying far away from that. Actually, thank you. So yeah, that's exciting. And yeah, it's just so refreshing, like being somewhere new and being far away from that. Not the toxic environment, but like the memories that hold there, not in my home, but like just the whole high school experience and how that went downhill really fast. Just starting fresh. It's like, I've almost like forgot I went through it just because like I'm so not over the fact that it happened, but just happy to be alive.
Well, you're getting the fresh start and you're getting the experience you've always wanted in school, but now it's just in college instead of high school. And, you're coming in with greater appreciation for life now.
Yes.
And you're taking every single day and just living it to the fullest. And, that's what everyone should be doing, but you were just a prime example of that.
Yeah. And it also helps that like being in college, everyone's more mature and they view life as like, this is my future. And granted, when you're in high school, you don't really think about anything until like your senior year and be like, wow, I'm taking the next big step in life. So it's helps with the change of mindset because we obviously were very rushed to mature very quickly with that really bad reality check. And I think the reason why I didn't really make that many friends in high school is because my thought process of life was just so different. And like I viewed things, I would say more maturely, but almost more maturely than people my age. And that's not their fault because they're growing up and living the high school experience. Well, I feel like I aged 6 years because of everything that I went through and how I just think about life. And it just helps being somewhere that people think, what's the word? Like not more maturely, but more adult-like and have goals and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, that's great. And I'm so excited to see what the next 4 years hold for you. And I'm hoping you go into the FBI because I love Criminal Minds. I'm more of a Spencer Reed girl myself. But but yeah, I mean, seriously, I am so beyond proud of you. I think you are such an inspiration, and especially at your age and everything that you had to go through. Childhood cancer is terrible. Just the fact that you're on here and sharing your story, you are going to be helping so many other young women and men that are going through similar experiences.
Yeah, and I appreciate it more than you know that I get the ability to actually share it because I was scared for the longest time. But I had help of my mom and be like, you should really do this because not only will it benefit you, but it also will benefit a bunch of other people. to feel comfortable in talking about it, because childhood cancer, I fear, is not really spoken about. I mean, it is, and there's like awareness for it, but I feel like no one ever talks about like how badly children struggle because of it.
You know, it's hard. It's terrible. You have to be very vulnerable to talk about it. And it's hard talking about it. You know, I didn't talk about my cancer, nor did I want to, for about the first 2 years. And now if you would have told me when I was 19 that I'm going to have a platform talking about cancer, I'd have been like, yeah, you're crazy. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So it's really just a healing journey, and you just have to take it like one day at a time, and just know that cancer didn't define you, but it was just a chapter in your life. And now you can take the positives that you learn from that and just keep moving forward every single day.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I just want to thank you once again for coming on and sharing your story. It truly means so much. That wraps up today's episode of Combating Cancer. If you or someone you know would like to come on the podcast and share your story, or if you have a sponsorship inquiry that aligns with our mission, please don't hesitate to reach out. My door is always open. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk to you all next Wednesday.